Hello and welcome to my next 5 tips for Stellaris 2.2. I just got done playing this campaign yesterday, and it has been about a month since I posted a tips video for Stellaris, so I figured it was about time. I have some more tips, some more hints that I picked up over the past month that I figure are worth sharing. So yeah, without anything further to say, let's just jump into it. Tip number 1 is migration. I was really confused by how migration worked when I first looked at it. It is quite powerful, so it is worth understanding that if your immigration push is higher than your immigration pool, then you're gonna start losing pops in this tab right here, in the declining tab. If you go to stability, it'll show you right at the bottom that it is giving plus 19 immigration pool on this planet, and the push must be greater due to the housing crisis here, or they are required elsewhere, and the immigration pool is just super high on another planet. I'm not entirely sure, but it basically is a calculation of what is higher, the immigration pool or the immigration push. And when you are immigrating away from a planet, it does reduce your growth on that planet, but it increases your growth on another planet. It doesn't tell you where the pops are going, which I think would be a nice thing to throw in the tooltip, and how much your immigration pool is compared to your immigration push. But essentially, that's what I've been able to figure out from migration, and I believe if you're playing a form of Xenophile, you should have access to a really nice edict, the Land of Opportunity edict, which gives you much more immigration pool plus immigration growth. Your growth from just having pops immigrate to a planet goes up, and I must have some planets that are getting some population growth from the immigration. This one, for example, is still room to grow, so I would imagine if I go in here, yes, it's getting 5.5 growth from immigration compared to the base 3, so that takes it up to a pretty big number overall, 10 growth per month. So basically every 10 months we're gonna get a pop, which is very nice, very powerful at any point in the game, in the late game or the early game. In the late game, a little bit less useful because you start to run out of places to put your pops, but regardless, I like having pops. I tend to leave things like, what is it, nutritional plentitude on even in the late game, because, well, the happiness bonus is kind of nice, but also more pops is more power. So yeah, that's basically what I figured out. I think the biggest factor might be your housing, but it's not the only factor. The immigration pool, I think, is the biggest factor, and housing affects that more than I think stability and amenities. Is from what I can tell, amenities have a very passive effect on your immigration push / pool because it affects happiness, which has a very clear effect on immigration pool and push. So let's jump into the next tip, which is kind of related to the previous one. The distribute luxury goods decision is actually very nice. Sure, on big planets it's 1,000, but if you got a nice enough economy, that shouldn't be that hard to do, and it increases your amenities, which is very nice if you're running low on certain planets. Most of my planets are pretty good, but like this one, for example, we could use the distribute goods, and I believe if I let this run for a month, then that will actually shift around a little bit. I hope it does. If it doesn't, yeah, there it goes. It jumped up a little bit, which is quite nice. That'll probably keep people from wanting to migrate away. And unfortunately for this one, it's not as great as other planets because there's a resource reduction here, but increasing your amenities to get your stability to 100% is definitely worth it in the current build, because that increases your resource from all jobs by a significant percent. It almost negates like the martial law, which we haven't enacted here entirely. So yeah, that's tip number 2. If you can distribute luxury goods, if you can build an economy strong enough to get enough consumer goods, which are, super useful for research, but also for making sure all of your other jobs are done efficiently, then go for it. I would really recommend it because I don't think a lot of people are aware of how powerful it is, and that means that it might get just buffed in the future. It might just get better, so you might as well get in the habit of using it now. So tip number 3 is another decision. I'd recommend that you use martial law on fortress worlds, that you get a couple fortress worlds in the mid to late game so that you can simply use them to get your naval cap up. If you can get your naval cap to like 3,000 like I have here, you'll have a very big advantage on the AI. The AI does not know how to increase its naval cap past 1,000 or so. So if you can stack on some soldier jobs on one planet and then put this decision on it, you'll have even more soldier jobs, even more naval cap. It comes at the cost of resource production, but this world really doesn't produce that many resources. What it does is it produces naval cap, which, if I understand correctly, is not reduced by the fact that we have we've reduced our job production. If I go in here, soldiers, naval cap, plus 152 for 38. I could probably calculate that to see how much it is, but I'm going to assume for simplicity's sake that they are not actually affected by the reduction in resources from jobs, because that would be kind of silly that you get more soldier jobs, but it comes at a cost of soldier jobs production. I don't know why you'd do that, unless like maybe you were trying to slow down the growth on your planet, which in the late game is kind of a nice thing. You might think, oh, minus 50% growth speed, minus 50% immigration growth speed, and pop assembly speed. That sounds really bad. Well, not if you run out of places to put your people. We just stole this planet, and this planet. So we have room to send our pops right now, but in the late game, it's pretty easy to run out of places to send your pops, so yeah. Fortress worlds, very nice. They reduce growth and your naval cap, which are pretty good in the late game. So I think we're ready for tip number 4, which is resettlement. If you have a bunch of planets like this, with some unemployed pops and some planets where you can send them, hypothetically, I'm sure there's got to be one in here. I would want to send them to here because there's 49 jobs, and if I was egalitarian, I may not be able to do this. My pops might not approve of resettlement. Unfortunately for us, we are not egalitarian. We're not authoritarian, but we aren't egalitarian, which allows us to come into our, which tab is it? This one. And then when we go to, oh boy, where is it? Resettlement. It's allowed, so we can move our pops around a little bit. It's a little bit easier to move our pops around. Robots do have a pretty nice advantage in that if they don't have citizen rights and you're egalitarian, you can actually move around your robots. I can't find them, but these guys, if they aren't full citizens, you can say, I would like you to go from here to there. So it is kind of nice to have robots with a egalitarian build. A Materius egalitarian build is quite nice, quite strong in this version of the game. So yeah, I'd recommend you go for that to allow you to resettle your pops and get your colonies over 10 population as soon as possible. I don't think I have any colonies right here, but if your colony is under 10 pops, then it grows a little bit slower. I believe it's like 1.5 base growth instead of 3 or something along those lines. So resettlement is really nice to get your colonies going, to get your really big worlds even more production. If you've got a world with 100% stability, like that one that I was playing around with earlier, this one, then you may want to send people there just for the extra resource production. And that's I think everything I had in my notes for egalitarian. Yep. And the last tip I have for you today is stay underneath your admin cap, which I had been doing a pretty good job of in this playthrough until, like, I don't know, the past 20 years or so, because I wanted to wrap up the campaign. I had to end the war in heaven, which meant conquering these guys and a couple other things. So right now we're over our admin cap, but it's not by a factor of 2. I've seen a lot of people go over their admin cap by a factor of 2, 3, or 4. Let's say I had an administration cap of 100. If you have an Empire Sprawl of 500, I think you're doing it wrong. I have heard a lot of developers and people say, if you're not going over your admin cap, you're doing it wrong. And that's because I think they don't want people to understand quite how powerful it is to slightly go over your admin cap and then go under it. If you can go over it and then under it, over it and then under it, you're going to be in a really nice spot for production. It will keep you from paying too much in technology costs, tradition costs, campaign costs, leader upkeep, leader costs. The leader upkeep and leader costs can be countered by a nice strong energy credit income pretty easily, but the technology cost is very nasty. If you're going to be playing more than 100 years, you don't want to be over your admin cap more than a factor of 3. That's just what I've found really helps me get an advantage on both AI players and human players. So yeah, that's the last tip. That's all I have for you today. I hope you found it useful and that you enjoyed watching the video. I will be posting more tips videos for Stellaris and other games that I like to play on the channel in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I hope to see you around for the next one.